jumping on to the some other games to talk about. Let's I mean, my overall statement is, Clark, the NFL is really and I thought of this last week. The NFL is kind of a crapshoot right now. Like, there's not really I think Baltimore and San Francisco are probably the two best teams.
Yeah,
but it's not really there's not a huge gap, and I feel like there's a lot of teams that could get into the playoffs and win a playoff game. I just don't think there's a lot of teams that can win 3 straight playoff games. And so, the Ravens are in really good shape because they'd only have to win 2 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl, and they both be at home. So that's a pretty good. Same thing with San Francisco. That's a pretty good position to be in. So yeah, it's kind of like, we'll see what happens the last couple of weeks here, but I think a team could get hot and get to the Super Bowl. Absolutely. I don't see any reason why that couldn't be the case. But all right, so let's move on to my next topic here. So, Clark, that's the thing, Clark. I'm asking the question: who can win 3 playoff games? Because I'm looking at the teams. I'm going down the list here. I mean, look, we're going to take Baltimore and San Francisco out of it, okay? Because first of all, they don't have to win 3 playoff games to get to the Super Bowl. They only have to win 2. So those 2 teams to me that's if you put a gun to my head, that's who I would say is going to win. Do I feel great about it? No. I don't feel awesome. We've seen San Francisco has some weaknesses, and if they get behind, they're in trouble. Baltimore, I think it's partly health. Because they've lost so many guys. Do they have enough guys now, and can they stay healthy long enough to get there?
Right.
And then we'll see. I feel like the Ravens do give up some stuff on defense, but you've got to be pretty good on offense too. So I feel like Baltimore's in the best position, but I'm not 100% in on it because neither one of those teams is great. All right, so AFC, Clark. I'm just going to go through the teams and then I'll let you chime in on it. Okay. Kansas City, no fucking way.
Nope.
They're not winning 3 playoff games. Okay,
no,
they can barely score. They can barely score 20 points even against bad teams. Okay, I don't know. Everyone's telling, and the other thing is, everyone's telling me their defense is great. Their defense is okay. It's not great. It's like the Cowboys defense. Everyone's telling me it's great. I'm watching. It's not great. So I don't think. And by the way, not only is it not great, it's not good enough to carry you to win playoff games. That's the bottom line. Their defense is fine. It has some good players on it, but it's not good enough to win games for you.
If they get into a game with the Ravens and, the Ravens offensive line is pushing them around, good night. It's over. They're going to run the ball. They'll run the ball down your throat. Lamar will make some plays and it's over. So I don't see any way that they're, and also just them against Cleveland. I've been chiming in on Cleveland forever. The Bills just beat them. Okay. So I could see that. And then I'm trying to think of who, the Dolphins, we don't need to get into that. We've already kind of established that we don't think they're going to go very far in the playoffs, even if they do.
Well, by the way, I don't think they're going to go very far. Could they beat Kansas City in a playoff game? Sure.
Maybe. Yeah.
Miami could beat them because
if they're not going to get blown out by Kansas City, then you'll be in the game.
Right. Kansas City's not going to score 20 points. So if they can't do that, then they're up for losing to anybody. So I just think the Chiefs' problems on offense are not going to be solved in the next few weeks. They could be solved in the offseason, but they're not going to be solved this season. Buffalo is they're all over the place. Buffalo has the ability to play really well. They also have the ability to lose to the Jets and the Patriots. So, even today's game, they were asking to get beat. It's just Bailey Zappi can't do anything, in the fourth quarter to beat them. Right. So, Buffalo, Buffalo can play really well, but they can also just eat shit and die. So there's no way. They might win a game because Josh Allen will go off or something, but there's no way they're winning 3 straight games. We already talked about Miami. Miami's all over the place on offense, and if their defense is not going to play well, which I'm not going to go crazy about the defense. They played the Ravens, whatever. I'm not going to go nuts about it. But if Miami's defense doesn't play well, they won't beat anybody.
Then we got the AFC South. Who's going to win? Who could win that?
So the story with that is Jacksonville, Houston, and Indianapolis are all tied at 9-7. If Jacksonville wins, they will win the division. If they lose, Houston and Indianapolis play each other. So if Jacksonville loses, then they'll win.
Oh wow, okay. Who does Jacksonville play?
I did.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Well,
Tennessee. Tennessee, because they're all
Oh.
division games last week of the season.
Oh,
So
okay.
Jacksonville's playing Tennessee. So yeah, so that division's a crapshoot. You believe in any of those teams? The
I don't believe in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville's lost 4 in a row, and we don't even know if Trevor Lawrence is coming back. So he, strained a sprained AC joint in his shoulder. So and he had the high ankle sprain before that. I don't know that Trevor Lawrence, even if he comes back, I don't know how good he's going to be. So you can't bet on. I don't know how any of those teams none of those teams are going to win 3 playoff games for sure. Cleveland, I just don't buy they're going to win 3 playoff games with a 38-year-old backup quarterback. Nothing against Joe Flacco. He's played really well. I'm not against it, but Cleveland's defense. I mean, if you want to talk about what's the best unit in the AFC, I mean, it's probably the Ravens offense, but the Cleveland defense is up there. So if Cleveland gets to play the AFC South winner, right? They get to play Jacksonville, Houston, or Indianapolis, right? I feel good about them winning that game. And then who knows if Buffalo's the 2 seed and Cleveland goes to Buffalo? I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So I just don't think they can win 3 games that way. They could definitely win 1, but Flacco's thrown some touchdowns. He's also thrown a lot of interceptions. So those kind of things can cost you when it comes down to playoff games. I'm not going to go into. I guess Houston or Indianapolis, whichever team wins the game, could still make the playoffs as a wild card. I'm not really buying into them. I mean, we certainly don't believe in Pittsburgh. So none of these.
I mean, Houston, they have some bad injuries, and they're like, they're just putting everything back together after being horrible for the last few years. So yeah, you can't really expect anything out of them. Indianapolis, I mean, the fact that they're at this point is just a credit to their coaching staff, and they've continued to play well, but they're not going anywhere.
And listen, I don't love Buffalo, but if you told me Buffalo's in the AFC Championship game, I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, you look at the teams, and it's like who's like, what, Buffalo can't beat them. I mean, maybe they can't beat Baltimore, but they beat just about everybody else. So I would be surprised if Buffalo won 2 playoff games. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't be the craziest thing ever. But I don't expect it. I'll put it that way. I don't expect them to do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. In the NFC, I mean, I think the 49ers are the best team. I mean, I just think the 49ers got beat by Baltimore, but that's the only team who could do that to San Francisco. San Francisco blew out Philadelphia, and Philadelphia looks terrible. And they blew out Dallas, and we just watched the last 2 games with Dallas. I'm not buying into that nonsense, and I'm not buying into Detroit. I just don't think there's anybody in the NFC that can even hold a candle to the 49ers. I don't
like, for instance, the Rams, maybe they're like the 7 seed or something, and like they're not going to be able to play with San Francisco. Their defense is not very good. So yeah, that's not really, the Eagles, the Cowboys, who else? Let's see, the NFC. So who the hell's going to win the NFC South?
Well, it might be the New Orleans, because they beat Tampa today.
Oh, so well, yeah, I don't buy New Orleans at all.
Right. I think they're in the driver's seat.
I don't buy Tampa either, but,
Right. I think New Orleans is in the driver's seat to win that division. So, yeah, I think the 49ers I just think that's a jug. I don't think anybody's really beating them. Dallas, we already talked about. They don't have their shit together. They're going to screw it up somehow. Even if they play well, they'll make some they'll do some dumbass things to screw it up. They just will. Detroit just can't. Detroit and Philadelphia, same thing. Defense. Their defenses just aren't any good. They're not any good. They're just not good enough to stop people, and that will eventually be their undoing. Philadelphia can put up some points, but when you're giving up 35 points to Arizona today, you're just not going to be able to stop anybody, and that's going to be the end of it. The Rams are interesting. Granted, they almost lost to the Giants today, but the Rams are interesting because they could definitely win a playoff game. They could go to one of these places and win because they have a good quarterback. They got a coach that knows what he's doing. But can they do it 3 times?
Could go to Dallas and win.
Right. But could they do it 3 times? No fucking way.
No, they're not doing it 3 times. So they can go win a game.
So, I mean, Clark, are we just down to we think Baltimore and San Francisco? Is it just kind of like, I mean, it's not inevitable, right? Because we know they have problems.
No.
We know they have problems.
It's just Baltimore struggled in the playoffs, and Lamar struggled in the playoffs specifically, so we need to see more from him in the playoffs. But, yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't, a lot of it comes down to matchups. We'll see what happens. Like, who does Baltimore end up playing? I don't know. So we'll see. Same thing with San Francisco. Well, I feel like maybe there's more of a chance Baltimore could screw up than the 49ers, unless the 49ers have significant injuries.
Yeah, because the first round game for the 49ers could be like Philadelphia or New Orleans, and I just think they're going to roll them. And, but by the same token, Baltimore could be playing in the first game. They could be playing like Jacksonville, Cleveland, or Houston, which Cleveland is, we agree on Cleveland. They're feisty. So yeah, I think San Francisco they have the gap is just higher than every place else. All right. Anything else on the state of the NFL playoffs before we move on? We've just shit on everybody. So but by the way, that being said, it means the playoffs are going to be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to have a clue what's going to happen, which makes me want to yell at the NFL. They're going to put a playoff game on Peacock and they're going to put a playoff game on Monday night. Like, screw you, NFL. Honestly, why do you do this to us? Anyway, all right. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I think we've sufficiently shit on everybody, so I think we're good.
So